Yeah. No, so and Kangala Tashitele. Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Tashi delay.
Oh yeah. Sanje Chödan
Soki Chanam Law, Janju Bada, Dagi Gapsuchi, Dagi Chunian Gipe Choknam Ki, Jolam Pancha Sange Drupa So. Sange Chodang Soki Chanam Law, Janju Bada, Dagi Gapsuchi, Dagi Chunian Gipe Choknam Ki, Jolam Pancha Sange Drupa So.
Sanje Chödan
Soki Chonam Law, Janju Bada, Dagi Gapsuchi, Dagi Chunian Gipe Choknam Ki, Jolam Pancha Sange Drupa So.
Dayata Om Gade
Gate para sum gate body swaha.
Dayata
Om gate para sum gate body swaha.
Dayata Om Gade
Gate para sum gate body swaha.
Oh yeah. Simja Tamjaga to Topjala Namachiba Sanje Kumaran Boja China Jatobacha. Dichida, Janjus and Labjana Tushi, the number Lawale, single symbol to all Tujeshu Manoa Kotu, and Cups of Baba the Kaja. I guess the Chambushua legacy, but Juju within the teacher to be some subject.
So we set our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all living beings. We know that to attain this state, I must perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those trainings, I must have a good understanding of them to really learn what they are about. And to gain that understanding, I need to rely upon a non-mistaken text, a non-mistaken presentation. So it is with this in mind that I have an opportunity to listen from just such a text this morning, a brief exposition of this text, namely the King of Mind Training texts known as the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, composed by the great master Shantideva.
And that the thing was that the commerce timber Jagu in some, what did they name you Kumbasha? And Kasura, Takaja Namju, Com Jeta Javina, Lunam Nanga Church and Sanja Nabana Shudan, Shen, what I did is there to Jitum Chet. What the Chen Namju Com Shudan Shen, Detuna Yabu in Bari. What I did in this, their Matuba in Bina Susu Subineta, their Matuba in Aya, maybe to get in a shit, they use some such Japan. Sanje kasa sanje namba nangzate, ana sanje tamjege takaja dikwa tabe dakcha har chawa di imba inza, an dikwa daya le keba yungu yusar, sugu detanga ta. An taka nishin, ya semne le keba yungu yusar, kasa lu chongna, za chongna, ana jiga long chongna, ana sem chongna dende yunga keba yusar. Wada dende nenga yudu lu kang chongbu chana.
We are, in a way, integrating this teaching with a meditation. It would be good to adopt a meditation pose whilst listening to this teaching. If one can, in the Vajra posture, with the legs crossed, the full Vajra posture, that would be excellent. If not, then to adopt the half Vajra posture or whatever seating position we find comfortable, but that we should try to imagine or visualize ourselves in the full Vajra posture, which is very, very significant in terms of, on the one hand, affecting a purification of any physically engaged in negativities related to the body, in other words. And so that that's one purpose of it. And the other is, it said that it kind of is to maintain a firmness of our focus in the mind, since when in that posture, it is conducive to a balancing of the winds in the body. And it said that when the winds are in balance, then the mind can be likewise in balance. And so it helps us to maintain a kind of firmness of focus and concentration.
그래서 류총은 사총부 차고 그래서 사총바 인바이나 롱총부 차 그래서 롱총부 차와이나 셈담 미과가와 종원에 내도에 펜도 연구에서래 그래서 셈 요에데 롱고 요요 인자
And so it's kind of like, rather there's an extra part to that I missed, that when the spine is straight and erect, then that is helpful for keeping the winds in balance. And when the winds then are in balance, then the mind.
사총부자 셈 그래서 류총부자나 사총부자나 아니 다 롱줄람도 야고 제가 사총부자 롱총부자
when the spine is directed, then the channels are in line, or the chakras are in line, and in that then is facilitates the kind of balance in the winds, and that can help the mind to maintain its focus.
So
so it said that, you know, the distraction in the mind, the movement in the mind is related to the movement in the winds. And so it's seated in this posture, sense to settle the winds and therefore settle the mind.
계속 개발체 개 엔딩 안에다 아니 랑게 되나 아니 탑절 투지 처부터 라마 투병 붙세다 랑게 타고도야 아니 지금 체디 진짜가 막이네 제가 생각마티 나마티 토마메바 진짜 막이는 심지어 좀 마상하면 요소도 어디는 공부하자
And so then to really make a special effort to generate the figure representing the merit field in front of us. It's actually our own root guru in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha, dressed in the saffron robes of a monk, seated in the Vajra posture, and that all around us are kind mother sentient beings, beginning with the parents of this life, the parents of the previous life to that, going right back to beginning this time and countless rebirths, so that we have this conception of all sentient beings all around us without exception.
아니 다다데 가사데 랑게 되나 세다 라마 투베 옹보테 아니 지고 옹가버 temba 아모 투가 홍고 이게 승자 세다 안 투가 홍레 왜서 빠도 매바 트네 아니 그 가자 감속게 심자 탐 잘라포 디포알레데네 감속게 심자 탐자 토마 매번세 디바디가 봐 지금 나니니 맞되네 장치 답아 중소 삼사자 엔디 개와 탐자 동송거 지나 칸용 쪽에는 최배 다 최바 사담이 아니 최배제 나서봐 간네 아니 조직계와 세다 잡을 야 최바피와 대 조직계와 세다 잡을 딱일 시에네 대다가 투규를 대화통 대외 동바계 동배 대화전 대돈 뉴스면 시켜서 선서 공부하자
And then we visualize that the merit field Buddha that we are visualizing is marked at the three places with the three syllables, at the crown, at the throat, and hung at the heart center. Light rays emanate from these three syllables, going out into all the three realms of existence, and in kind of dissolving into all of the sentient beings therein, affecting a very powerful purification of all negativities and obscurations that they have accumulated since beginningless time. And the virtue accrued from this act is then offered to all of the Buddhas of the 3,000 realms, 3,000 eons, and it is kind of made manifest. All of that which is excellent in all the realms offered to the Buddhas. The Buddhas are pleased with such an offering. They experience that in the form of a bliss which combines with voidness, and they abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
완전 된대게 안에 가서도 먼저 된대 추와표 할 때는 아니 대화제 되어도 뉴스 이시 계속 삼자 잡아이나 지다 조직 대화세다 잡아라 대화통 대회 동바제 대도 뉴스면 이시 맞게 감매버려 이내야 추바대 표할 때는 중간 된대 미국 동원도 라운줄라 아니 대도 뉴스면 이시 계게 아니 다가자 저거 가서다 주주본 거라. 그래서 데레 공부시도는 야고 쉬우지 와 어딘데 다들 어딘데 엔데네 초주 자와서다 저 투주 꾸네 아니 뭐 초주 자와서다 저 구수도 연대지 말라 나봐 라마 투베 온 남발라 죄네 아랑게 되나 세다 라마 투베 온 것들 봐 팀니 자원바 니소메 봐 주스바 팀네 안고 예매도 주소 삼사자 다 된대게 다 당게 되나 세다 라마 투베 온 어디 시바 무엇을 주네다 초주 자와서다 집에 다니 차소서 어딘데 공부시 아니 라야 라마 투베 온 투갈 왜서 봐도 매봐真的 온게 하나 젠자 아니 대신 샤바나게 되는 거 온고도 서 소와다 와잖아 아니 온래 온고 쉴라마 제조인데 말래 아니 미개가 오게 되는 거 어떻게 공부시 돈을 야고 여봐 어떻게
And so when we describe these offerings that are offered, causing this sense of bliss in the Buddhas who are pleased with the offerings, of course, this is a simulation where the Buddhas don't need an offering to experience such bliss, but it's from our side that we are doing it. And if we also can experience that, to try to bring forth that sense of bliss combined with voidness and abiding in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness, that would be tremendously significant and auspicious to do. Then once the Buddhas experience this sense of bliss combined with voidness, then they emanate replica Buddhas, and they come to the crown of the Guru Buddha as the wisdom beings and dissolve into our Guru Buddha in the merit field, becoming inseparable from the Guru Buddha. Then light rays emanate from our Guru Buddha, again going out into the pure realms, inviting back the empowering deities. And the empowering deities come, they prefer the nectar of empowerment, some of which overflows, and then the figure of Akshobhya spontaneously appears on the crown of the Guru Buddha.
어딘데 공부시 아니 어딘데 공부시는 다간 저 공부시 아니 랑게 타고도 마제 심제 탐제 그 아니 리주수도 동행 나시 막가임 나봐 아는 나라도 미 다가 미기 남주에 되게 어딘데 저 공부시 아니 라마도베 공부 그 아니 고선도 그 연대 아니 대시변 말에 다르다 봐 이식도 모두 그때 봐 어딘데 중심이 깨는 공부시 공부시 어딘데
So all the sentient beings that we are visualizing all around us from the 6 realms, they are experiencing the sufferings related to those 6 realms, but they are cognizing it with a human intelligence. And so they also have an appreciation of the qualities of the Guru Manindra that we are visualizing in the merit field. And this brings forth the triple aspect of faith, the pure faith, faith of conviction, and the manifest faith.
어디랬지? 아니 다 어디랬지? 다 간자제 그래. 다 심쟁그 동에 나서 미스베 니제. 아니 니제체 아니 델레텐도 그 대화된도 그 잠바. 아니 대다 동네 탐자자 와다 대화 탐자도 뭐 녀지게서 학습. 다 소수 지가 저도 다 제마도 봐 세보래 심제 탐자자 심제 지게 대화 동네 탐자 저 제마도 봐. 다 대대 제베 누바다 술라 뜻은 라게 되나 제베 라마토베 뭐 심제도 투게 람라라 뭐 봐서 뭐다 딜도. 다 뒤에 공부하지 마도 타마도 토바지기 삼사 공부시.
And so we developed a sense of compassion for wishing to remove the suffering of these sentient beings, and the love wishing to establish them in every happiness. And then we developed that sense of personal responsibility, to say an extraordinary motivation of I will be the one who can do this. But of course, shortly after that moment, we realized that we can't even do this for one sentient being, really efficiently at the moment. But when we look around to see from what state can I truly benefit sentient beings in every possible way, it is the state of enlightenment itself, the attainment of the state of a Buddha. And so I realized that the Buddha has, for the sake of sentient beings, developed this same mind of enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings. It trained on the path with that motivation, and for the sake of sentient beings, manifested full and complete enlightenment. I see there is no choice. I must attain the state of enlightenment in order to really, truly benefit all sentient beings.
어디 잖아. 근데 이제 라마 투베하고 구소도가 연대 좀 집어가네. 다음에 때와. 아니 이치게 때와. 아니 뭐도게 때와. 소다가 저 어디에 그 도시 있겠네다. 로 도시 있겠네. 아니 되네. 아니 디토베 체도 다가 저 아니 저주고 슈데는 냠슬랑게 아니 냐게 라 냠슬랑와래 아니 셰고래. 아니 되네 이마자 디 제셰 트부스 얘기 있어. 어디도 공부자 어디로 쳐.
And so then with that triple faith, pure faith, manifest faith, and faith of conviction, in that process, in the capacity to be able to get to do that, I generate this mind of enlightenment as I am preparing to listen to a teaching from the Bodhisattva's way of life, an explanation that I will learn from and put into practice.
Lama tuyaangboda tangbunne aniba sangye jewa jama yinbachi, tangbunne sangye jewa ma yinbachi, ane ngarazo neche, ane chiwa kude nyongbe shangwa tu gyute genche, ane tende nyongbe shangwa tu gyute gente, ane ngoyuge nechu, ane dikaso de, ane ngoyuge nechu, ane kene, rata ngoyuge nechu mongbe ongi nyongbe shangwa tu gyuba tang, di yinba yinsa, ane shangwa tu gyuba yinsa, ane tang ngoyuge nechu nyongbe shangwa tu gyuba desila, ane 대화석에 뒤남에 용해 뭐유고 그래서 딱까지 대화 체질 상황 뒤남에 용해 매바데 아니 뭐유고 내주도 있겠네 아니 된대게 딱까지 저 그래다 너무 뭐 상황이 좋아래 아니 방에 탑이 여바디 아니 라네 까네 아니 토케 아니 람라라 뭐 봐서 봐 상계와 님바디 뭐 줘봐졌어 그럼 좀 되게 유대 되게 다 그래서 유대 니바 되게 셔봐져 아니 the rata the and or that the yunde debaten de la tawake yunde de la and the yunde de ta jam miluwa imbaji sana motona and yichi de bache ro jumze shebe yichi de bache and mondo ge debasa ta ngaya simje 탐제 도 산제 공부 보고 심제 탐제 편 토와 지기나 디나지 공부 좀 또 탐도 삼사제도 모두 게 대봐 ngaya de de 두부인 뭐도 탐도 산도 뭐도 게 대봐자 어디 셔버려 어디 안 좀제 셔버 거는 다음에 대봐 이지게 대봐 뭐도 게 대봤어 아니 어디 지금 나네 다 세체 어디 셔
So the Guru Manindra that we are visualizing as the merit field in front, of course, was not a Buddha from the beginning. In fact, the Buddha started out just as we did, just as we are, very much under the influence of mental affliction and really, creating suffering. But having really sat and analyzed the situation, came to the actuality, the reality. It came to know the reality of the situation, was able to really work against these mental afflictions, and ultimately abandoning those mental afflictions, generating the mind of enlightenment, and then proceeding on the path and manifesting full and complete enlightenment. And so when we reflect on these qualities and our aspiration to do the same, that level of aspiration is referred to as the pure faith, that that the example set by the Buddha is so dependable, so reliable, that I can aspire to attain that state. And then when I realize that it is an unmistaken path based on reasoning, I develop the faith of conviction. And further on, then to gain that confidence of saying, I will therefore emulate the qualities of enlightenment in myself. And that is the manifest faith. So one has now the confidence to really go for it. And that's how the triple faith works. It is powered by reasoning to kind of really be able to embed it into our practice. Sokran miga nishu zapdun ganla wogi chikdi simba gawe doppelasom.
Sumba kawe dobla sumsam kawe dob. Sumba kawe dobla sumsam re ta kanje je kaso re ta kanje je nyamlen de je tuye la ane niwa mimba je matuba ina ngoto le tangbo yinba yinza ane je gombe onge ta nyomo sengwe rangshin ta shuyo mari ta ibe rangshin na chuba ta kiaba megan sura chene pe nama shukchuge ane yon digenchi rwa yon digenchi tuwa wata tene yinba yinza ta tene niwa te la ane rangi kaso ta rwa ta kacha lugi ta tigo rangi kaso ta semge top ke gu tuwa semge top ma jeba yina ane le la wo jine je ma tuwa chegre rwa semge top ke ba yinba yina ane je kale khabo jine ba kale kaza ne ane kale kaza je tuwa chegre rwa ta ngo zo nyoe du de je ne ju mo bu je ngo zo sam ya bu ta na ta de yinba yinza de za ta suma gawe top la sum je na ta nami la ma de ba sa ke wala pe ba chawa 제부 이라 제대 안 개발을 두바 안에 가외 dobla 자외 출로선 삽제 숨제.
So we're looking at a third outline here referred to as the power of joy, and that here it is in the context of the fact that our practice is very much interfered with and compromised by the mental afflictions, that we have come to know that the mental afflictions gain their power purely through habituation. They are not backed up by valid reasoning. This is also therefore their weak point, and that we can really start to develop the power of our own minds by recognizing this reality, by recognizing that through the power of mind, we can do what was erstwhile considered extremely difficult. And we can do that. We can accomplish these things. We can overcome that, and they will appear much easier once we access this power of mind. And one of these powers is the power of joy. This outline has 3 subheadings, and one is that we can enter into the effort of accumulating virtue without thinking about the result, without relying upon the ripened result. Secondly, is regarding the result as the accomplishment of virtue. In other words, virtue as its own reward. And thirdly, then, how to integrate the power of joy into our practice.
Ganje je gaso de Geshe dani chebe nyamne singda jebala ta ganje jebala ta digi ge chibu de garcha gorsana ji gaso de ji namila toba megenche wata di jeba ina ane di jeba na soso gaso de ji gele oda keben de yongurasa ta ganje ngazo namju de yongura wata ji soso gusha soso pa robaje je 미소 구샤 맞잖아. 안 소소로 빠지니 맞아 봤다. 자. 딱그 남이라 되더라 구샤 없다고 된다다. 계세님 보시에 저거 된데 되대봐 인사. 아니 소소 개발 빠져 지기도 봐. 파족이 남줄라 때네 소소들 팬토에 쳐야 되겠지. 다들 가르쳐서 소소 란전쟁 레와치 카드가 열받아. 레와치 카드가 열봐. 이네 당고 삼로나 매버서 저다 딩딩들 열해. 딩딩들 열봐 인사 미지게 소소 남주 로바 제대로체 안 간산들 미디게 남주 두자 때만 아직 여러분 맞잖아 딱다 인삼다 근데 지금 나도 지금 아주 용도 당해서 내당 걸 요리디 근데 가래 용거였으나 그러나 기다리다 게지 로바 제데 라와이베 메제 카투들 라와 메게 소제 딩디다 곰베 온게 말아도 곰베 온 거지 요다디 어디 뒤던 거고 다 제바데 심자가 뱀배쳐도 그 앞에나 심제 탐제가 더 산제 고마 두고 해야 돼 미소 레베스나 말에 미소한테 심제가 되는 줄 외쳐도록 산제 라니 산제 고마 두어야 돼 심제가 되는 줄 탑라 두고 거다 미소한테 심제가 되는 줄 샤고도 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 다디 주베 쳐도 라니 산제 고마 마주나 심제 감다 매바 나서봐 저와 인상 아니 소제 펜 토요 삼사 요번에 펜도 살로 녀줘야 돼 용 되기도 와 근데 임바 인자 아니 감다 매바 신고라스 아니 산제 고마 두바이나 아니 감다 매바 나서 시다와 시도 ken거 여바자 아니 셈제 가르쳐바네 셈제가 되는 뭐 주고 매바 차되고 여봐 다자 랜다 남이라 저와 메게지 그거 되는서 남이라 또바 매바 아니 개월 배바 저 남이라 또바 매바 전에 아니 개월 배주 제도 가지고 그래서 싸war려 제모 된데 되바다 네 자외 내가이 레델라니 현자데 레데 민고 가와자스
So the great bodhisattvas, when they engage in any kind of virtuous activity, there is never an inkling, never a thought as to the result. And it's saying that this is the only way to engage in really a spiritual practice. That how often have we helped somebody, but they expected some sort of respect from them, or a thanks from them for what they're doing, for what we're doing for them. And that if they don't give that, then we're thinking negatively of them. So you can see this sort of expectation can create an obstacle to virtue. There's no doubt about it. This comes from our self-cherishing attitude, and that it's self-cherishing that throws up this expectation. And even though we may not have it, we may not perceive it outwardly ourselves, but deep down, there's some inkling of it. There's some sort of expectation that when we go and help somebody, that they should appreciate that in some kind of special way. So it's kind of like really important to do that, because we might end up in a situation where, we might have helped somebody, but then they have in some way disrespected us or even showed a negative expression towards us, that might give rise to the thought, I helped them. It probably would have been better if I hadn't. They didn't show any kind of appreciation whatsoever. So you don't want that situation to arise. And again, it's the habit that drives that forward. What we need to do is to establish a new habit of mind, that when we are helping anybody, assisting anybody in any sort of way, that it is not just for this single person. It is for all sentient beings. I've got the motivation to benefit all sentient beings. You take away the personal side of it, but you are helping all sentient beings for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so this is this person is so kind that they're providing the means by which I can be of benefit. And so they're extra, they've got an extra appreciation for helping me do this. And so so when we are doing this, that we need to, the reason why we need to attain the state of enlightenment is because from that perspective, from the perspective of a Buddha, they understand the individual dispositions and habituations, etc., of all sentient beings. And therefore, there's no danger that whatever benefit they bring will actually end up as harmful. Whereas from our point of view right now, that can be the case. So we have to be very, very careful in what we do and get the right attitude of giving.
我的了，他感觉这个，如果本来恰恰吧，伊那台湾前边2年几个，安尼，告诉他，个这个旅去了3届，我们 top 生的，top 生的来了不就马里的，伊那来了不就马里哇，马里就他个给完了这个的，安尼3届我们 top 了，安尼告诉他，确实这个旅店是过不多，第一上给完起码，安尼点这个旅店也得给全部人下死，我的那个就这样，到底。디제원도 디제바데 된저고 류된데야 소소 체도 말해 산제의 고마 두에 체도서 디겨요 말해 다 되면 봐잖아 기부 중국을 남소로지 기부 중국 짱박을 남소로지 다 심제 탐제가 말을 건다 겨와 치마데 뭔들 하다 매일 고마 토고도 삼사 아니 소소의 체도 제바 임바디 태과 첨배 중나 제바는 마티 버다 남이를 떼버려다 남을 대대가 남을 맞아 봐고 얘네야 대화 집에 냠내 저게 개와 지망원도 되도 니가 말서 니 그래 네가 가래도 탑소 산제 고마도 탑도 줘야지 뒤쳐도는 놀고 요마 다 때문에 맞아 라니 주고 가서 디기 용에다 들려쳐도 돼 디모고다 배다 타바 된도 녀바 있네 라니 집오시도 되녀들로 와이나 안 대화 집에 심게 냠기도 와 그래서 남인 돈도 니기도 와. 다 된대가 돈도 많이 그랬다. 다 그래서 샘제 타입에 맞게 샘제 탐제고 돈도 아니 뭐도 고바 돈도 니야 지고 요래. 로아 뭐도 고바 돈도 니야 다 되게도 연구 요래. 다 되가서 뭐도 고바 돈도 니야 돼. 랑니 그 체도 레모도 와. 타입에 맞게 샘제 탐제고 돈도 와줘도. 아 되게 리버 찍어라도 랑 산제 고바 돈도 니기도 와. 디 돈도 니에 돼. 디 가서 디 안에 니고 타도 버려야 말해 니고 타도 가 심지가 되는 좀 해도 안에 산재 고마 줘야 돼 개처부 차대고 여러 어디를 되내서 남이 도도 많이 봤어야 돼 라니 집고 시도 되냐게 라니 집고 디기 용한치도 된대게 디만 매 가지고 요래 되대 디매 고바이나 남이 그 돈도 내 봐서 자고 요래 남이 돈도 내 봐서 자고 요래 다 된대 이번 인사 대바 집에 슝 냠내 지금 된대게 남의 돈도 많이 가지고 요래.
So from the point of view of the great practitioners, very high level practitioners, and that I mean, there are those who can, attain the state of enlightenment in just the course of one lifetime, something which of course is quite difficult, but they are, prepared to spend from eon to eon to eon to attain that body of a Buddha, and that what they are doing is to maintain the motivation to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all, of course, but that may mean also then aiming for the result of a precious human rebirth, because from that point of view, they can work best to further their progress along the path. And so it is, different to the smaller capacity being who wants to, who prays to attain the state of precious human rebirth. For their own sake, they have that level of motivation. But from the Bodhisattva's point of view, it's perfectly fine to aim for a result like a precious human rebirth without ever losing the bodhicitta motivation to always do so. A strategic means to an end, that this will be able to lead me towards my goal. My ultimate goal is to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so they have this, have this motivation, and they're avoiding lesser motivations like the motivation to attain liberation, striving for that state of the peace of nirvana for oneself alone as well, so that they are kind of maintaining the importance of working for the benefit of all sentient beings, not for themselves alone. And so therefore, in the course of doing so, a higher rebirth will do very nicely, thank you, and I can really work very well for all sentient beings. um, and making sure that there is no working purely for myself and my happiness, that my motivation is never stained by such a lesser aspiration. And this verse number 63 speaks of this. It reads, just like those who yearn for the fruits of play, a bodhisattva is attracted to whatever she may do. She never has enough. It only brings her joy.
레가자데 셴줍자치는 아니 뭐자 셰바 란줍자치도 체요바 아니 셰랍게 아니 단 파베 노트뉴스게다 베 냠네 나고 열바다 파베 노트 주바소 파베 노트라 소베다 게세게 줘봐 다 로다 다 지금 다다라 다다 자외 레 칸이 바데 레 델라네 아니 레 델라네 에 샤바차데스타 레 티투베 체도 다가자 다가자 로다 레디 두베 체도 다가자 저 ngomba meba chena ta tuba chiga le de na la mi ngomba ra ta ka ze chungwa yin ba yin ne chi da ruwa ta ka ja je ka so de chi da khoye ge che de de tuwa de ani ko chi da twinge ko go de yin na ngomba meba twa meba ta sheng ge de yin du ani ngomba meba chena ta ka ja wa de ge ngomba meba chena gawa da twa ngane tuba chiga res 가선지 란신지가게 뒤에 타치버 줍투에게 아니 가서 튕겨지 마이사 주지 마이사 들 뭐만 봐 주고 그랬어. 저 보자.
And so this verse details how there are those who really like to get involved in sort of games, sporting activities, etc., and they yearn for the fruits of such games and so on. But from a bodhisattva's point of view, their aim, their reason for living is much more profound and broad. It takes into consideration what are known as the 7 Arya jewels, the 7 Arya gems, which are faith, ethics, learning, generosity, a sense of shame with regard to maintaining a very high standard in one's own behavior, and a dread of blame, lest we let ourselves down in the opinion of others, and then wisdom. So these are these 7 that they live by, and that in whatever actions they do, they are, as it were, engrossed in their pursuit of virtue. Here it speaks of them, to whatever task she may do, she never has enough. They never satisfied. And so even though this is a quality of cyclic existence itself, this is not related, that the bodhisattva is never satisfied in the amount that they can do for others, because they understand that to focusing all their efforts on benefiting others is that which fulfills the purpose of both self and others. And so they're fully, as it were, engrossed in these activities.
나는 코에게 최디게데 아니 소제 간장선에 다 디게다 디게 열에서 찾지 마잖아 아니 뭐바 매바잖아 바 교도도 욕다 용어 되기도 와다 파베 넣어들라 소바다 아니 지게 디게디 아니 계세게 줘봐다 디게디 간데 간갈 같이 뭐바 매바 정화 이메라이나 디게게 아니 디게 슉체다 줘야게 아니 땡기 디게 줘야게 줄세 교차되고 열마 교차되고 열에 원에 어디를 찾고 되게 돼 아니 고든 노주 매버해 right? Sing don't do it, carry money, Mobamba Bache. Rang get don't do it, and any Kazan choice image. But that together is Church Mazimaina, and Yokta.
And so, of course, in cyclic existent terms, the idea of dissatisfaction, not being satisfied, never having enough, etc., is a characteristic and a faulty characteristic of cyclic existence. But this must not be misunderstood with the lack of satisfaction that a bodhisattva feels with regard to the amount of virtue that they are engaging in. And so here, it's the activities that a bodhisattva is dissatisfied with, or never satisfied with, is the amount of benefit that they can bring to sentient beings, the amount of happiness that they can establish, the amount of suffering that they can remove, and indeed creating the causes for this to happen is something that they're never going to be satisfied with. It's always more and more and more. It's a very different thing for our sake, isn't it? That for others, what we should be doing is, when we think about benefiting and helping others, we should never be happy with what we are doing. But in terms of what we have ourselves, we need to be far more easily satisfied.
What the that the name by into the good day and Tamba Monova Chia to watch it. That the name by into what I can say, Red Rapena, you give you Lua Meva, and it kept Senitawa. The legila and it died our Yijig, there were one to get our Putabuchi, and Motune, Yabuji Kiva in another, but try again. Yungurwata, so good, the Bakes you did. Dashta Masha and Kanzana and Tambu also when the Kanzana draw a gay edition. Tapuna the Jumzen on a corner. You did Tawakewa, Rota Dilla, because Tawake Quay, the Yunde to get the bear, contest. But Yunde the contest shot to get the bar, they on the and Yunde to get to watch two on the. And then they get you de la Ichi Yungurwa. That the day Ichi Yongsa de Chetu, and that Soso and Semjing of Dun Drubayina, and then the next man of the top me do some such. You want to any Casada Munduke, Debati Yungurwa, and Debaputa was Shujungudwa. Debaputa was Shujung, then they get Deva de Dakaja, a Migi Yunde Shabazama, Yunde, Rangi, and Bechema Cheba Chene, and Tambo Tujung Sherabke, Tujung Sherab D, and Sherab Keba D, Donda Shebati, and Yana and the Choma would have some Lutan Jene. Cheba Chedu, Samjung Sherabke. Samjung Kebe Denti, and Taranil Dube Chedo, and Komjung Sherabke to a Chedo, and Pita was Shujungurata. Pita was Shujung, then they get Jung Sabege. Tujung Sheraja, Samjung Shera, Komjung Shera, Kate Savage, Teneta. Then a parcha Yoma, the Troakirwa, to the Devake, the Troakirwa, and Devati, Jambia, down to, and then they get Yamne Jela, Sudum Sigata, get a Getchimoba. Road Kanja, Sherab Getchimocha, Sherab Shidel, Tengas Getchimocha, Tengas Shidel, Sudum Getchimocha. Then is a Sudum Sachita. Such a double. That the US Chudum Getchimo in that tone, and it Chudum soil Kanayomarwa. 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 That the Chudum get it. And then what I didn't take a tone to, and then the lay Shunglu did the Tobachella. Tobachella, but Kashi trashing on the Kase Yomari. Tobache to Gurwa. And then they Tobala Tene, and it Cheda in the Sanzi in the Karimba in the Chibata, but try younger. Try Yungurwa, that what did Yungudwa? Then that Chicago them Ruataka Jaja Gasade, and it was a share, Ruata, and it tell you what year, and it share a top gear, the Yungudwata. Share out there, that puts over share, turned up a share up. The Yungurwata, what are together to be a Latin? 되게 지혜를 다가자 당보 시대인데 비다고 창원데 아니 그 15주 비다고 창원 다 그게 욕말다 가서 매버려 가서 매버려 와다 다 용어가 쳐디가 나도 건배원게 라수고 용 되게 여름에도 콜라 문제 전에 제가 이제 봐 세지 중이나 콜라 푸요 말이야 잡된 거 참아 요 말이야 잡된 거 참아 매도 콜 문제 제가 이나 당 어제 배준 지고 요 말이야 배준지 제가 이봐 이나 콜라 니와 요 말이야 다 단다데 가서 팍배 노트스도 니와 요래 좀새 요래 잡된 참아 요래 미기 소속의 로이 누가 같이 숙처 집에 속에 딜러 연대 체다 동 그래 랑게 로이 누가 같이 숙도 쳐 저게 맞아 영웅을 쳐다 누가 충다 가서 걸 잡는 거 참아 요 말아 봐 와다 되게 개와요 되게 개와요인데 아니 좋아하게 돈에 제도가 준 거로 봐
So refuge, when we talk about the importance of going for refuge, is based on, our continual feeding or nurturing the triple faith, the pure faith, the faith of conviction and manifest faith. And that here it's, really recognizing that this is available to us. It's all very possible. It's within reach, that we have the potential, etc., to accumulate this. And this all in the course of generating this sense of joy, a joy of entering into practice, entering into virtue, that is kind of self-perpetuating as well. It's very, very important, and we base that on reasoning. It's very, very important that when we look into something, we examine the qualities that are being presented. They seem to be reasonable. They seem to be based on fact and logic, etc. That we have to allow this to generate faith in us. It's kind of like a very important initial step. And so we're talking here about the 7 gems or jewels of the Aryas, and the faith is the first one. And so this is a faith that we can work for the benefit of sentient beings. That all of this is very doable, and that it isn't kind of like pie in the sky, sort of beyond our reach. How do we know this? We know this that we can, because we've put it to analysis, and therefore we see that it is what it actually says it is. It's something that can really help us to get our heads around the whole idea. That in turn brings a confidence that should translate into a kind of a joy that we have such faith, that this faith is based on a valid reasoning. Ethics is the second of these Arya jewels, and ethics is the foundation. It's kind of like from, wisdom arises from concentration. That concentration is based on a sound ethical foundation. And so very, very important that ethics is seen as a base that on which we build the other qualities. The other qualities being learning, gaining the knowledge, the data of what we need to do. Again, saying when we have certain amount of knowledge, this should bring a certain sense of joy to us. It's like I'm arming myself with the conducive conditions for practice here. Next comes generosity. How we can give, how we can give ourselves, give of our time, give of our patience, and so on, ultimately to give our own bodies. All of this, again, saying, wow, this is joyful stuff. This is great to be able to generate such qualities. And then there's the sense of shame, that we have, set a very high bar in terms of our own behavior, and we don't want to contravene the high standard that we set for ourselves, and a sense of blame, where we don't want to be in a situation where we're letting ourselves down or what we represent down as well. And so that keeps us in line. And then the wisdom, both the conventional and the ultimate wisdom is extremely important. And so that basis that we have is very, very important, that we have all of the above, as this word, like, these are our great team that we have on our side, a team that is going to uproot the deeply habituated tendency towards mental affliction, because the deeply embedded habituation towards mental affliction is not backed up by valid reasoning, whereas what we have just discussed is backed up by valid reasoning. And so these, once we recognize this, once we are kind of able to embrace the understanding that we have, that we start to develop a joy in our own confidence. So we've accessed the power of our mind, the strength of our mind, to be able to see through a mental affliction, because it is only based on habit, because it is not backed up by valid reasoning. And we make the better choice every single time. And we do this also by, understanding that, the mental afflictions have no power other than their being so habituated in our mindset. That's the only thing they can have. And therefore, we can really see through them. And so it's kind of like I can access the power of my mind. I can see through the wisdom arising from learning, that I have a good basis of the basic information that I need. I don't leave it like that. I put that through analysis. I really hone in on what is important there, and develop the wisdom arising from meditation, or sorry, from contemplation, analytical meditation. And then when I hone that more and bring that deeper, I get the wisdom arising from a meditation. And so it's a wonderful, again, I have this sense of how fortunate to be actually exposed to such a wonderful system. And I can see how it works. It looks like it's all based on good, solid reasoning. And I can really, take this path on. And so you have that sort of power, that you are now ready to increasingly overcome mental affliction, thereby undermining its habitual tendency to reduce the instance and the power of mental affliction at every turn, and thereby opening up your life to increasingly taking a virtuous choice again and again.
我的了解，他你把这部一了，现在搞完之后搞，现在是搞完主办的事，他你把这部一了，现在搞完主办的早晚了，单位端都来接讲，单局没就对没接，赶紧来年单局吧，单来没接记得的，不知所家长子的，对吧？那么就明我们那，那么的话希望呢，说能记得我。
The second of these subheadings is regarding the result as the accomplishing of virtue. And verses number 64 and 65 deal with this point. Although people work in order to be happy, it is uncertain whether or not they will find it. But how can those whose work itself is joy find happiness unless they do it? If I feel that I never have enough sensual objects, which are like honey smeared upon a razor's edge, then why should I ever feel that I have enough merit which ripens in happiness and peace?
是，当我说 tsedi gechimbo tse, ruwa tsedi gechimbo tse, ane tsedi dendo, je de, ruwa da soso kiwi rang dewe dendo. Ruwa da bada mi ganga ge, cho ke lena da, cho ke ma lena da, cho kate ke lenba ina, ganga dewe dendo jiga yorwa. Cho ke lena de, dewe dendo ke lenga yore. Riki cho ke ma lenba de, ya, korangi da, samlo tangtang la babe, dewe dendo ke lenga yomare. 로다 간제 제데 대외도도 제데고 열바다 간제 다 노라이나다 노르메나다 가이나메나다 소주게 남주기 개발게 가셔 넣고 열에 가셔 넣고 요 말이야. 디 개발점을 해마도 지에 미조데 대화도도 년에 지금 열바. 그죠 자자가 대화도도 년에 그죠 자기 열바. 자기 열바. 다 되면서 소소기버 란 대외도도 레 지점 제자 디 대화 줄미줄 되메데서 로다 대화디 용마용디 예바스 개면도 봐. 로아다 미소 가셰게 오다 대화 된는 얘네 무소고 요래 아니 칼에 잡고 요래 딱 무이 되게 코로나 대화 연구 요서는 예봐 요 말이야 가셰 무 소야게 내 요봐 무 배주 당에 내 매게 미 칸대요 칸대요 단 먹부 연구도 왔들 먹부 요 당가서 통대 들어와 그래서 코로나 무 소야 칼에 잡게 내도 얘네 무이 되 콜 배주 당에 내도서 미도 민도와 되는 망부도와 미 망부여래 되는 망부 연구여래 좋아 다 소소게 지기 야나네 코나 지기 셀레테 쪽도 야나네 역달에 중지는 무디 구마이나 작바이나 데 초쪽도 다 간제 내주 망부 좀 되기도 한다 그 통대지로다 그 예와 개면도와 예와 개면도 나라서 그 디기 된도 제 되게 돼 다른 것도 저불리날 제 돼. 디기 된도 지기 예스근데 망체 지기 동해 줄라 줘대 안에 되게 디기 돼 내가 그 디기 돼 용도 뭐 용래 예와 개면도와 예와 가야면도와 로 앞에는 것도 배나 녀자 잡네 녀자 잡네 칼라드 사이게 녀자 잡네 수케네 아니 차감나 루 둔다 지금 디 소소게 롱제 유메데 태소물에 도와 로다 치원녀바 남친 예매 된데 차네 태소물에 샤 아니 내주 시행망부这个 소소라 사주 라메 대 태소물에 도와 다 되네 이마에서这个 소소 제바 대화 두고 있어서 대화 디 대화도 소소를 연구 유메데 태소물에 샤 내가 초망부에 대다 태소물에 샤 예바 개면도 모두 내 당부 제대 예바 개면도 가서 뭐저게 팬토에 대 셰럽 좋아다 제가 지금 요 말해 소소 그 낭수 어디 돈 지나 삼을다 당거 열대 이내야 딱고 저 지금 가서래 지금 문에 전에게 소소 제반나 신게 아니 가서래 대외 줄을 주토야 됐다 영화제는 마영화 망하래 가서는 먼저 대 몸배 온게 지원들 요다 다 개세 다니 좀 못해 낭제 건가 대외 줄을 줘 되기도 대외 줄을 줘 되다 가서는 미유대 난 내가 대화 중 나서 삼상 말와 미유대 샘제 탐제기도 상계 고마 토브라 지나서 거 봐. 샘제가 된 교회 제도 디 제보 미루하래도 디나 단다 디기 중나 계정 말와 세들라 디기 중나 계정 말와 계정 말와다 미유대 샘제 탐제가 된 말좀 탐만도 디시도 상계 고마 두고도 세도 걸로와 용금도 와 너르금도 와 가서 디 셰럽게 좋아다 제발게 셰럽게 좋아다 제백에 가서래 개화지 두고 온데 걸로와 용금도 와
So this verse number 64 discussing then how people work in order to be happy, and we can see this all around us. You know, and it's a kind of a natural, spontaneous kind of like element of being human, really, isn't it? That it's considered to be something very, very important. All people, regardless of how they might describe their lives, are all trying to be happy. They're all doing what they're doing, whether directly or indirectly, for happiness, really, whether it's engaging in Dharma or not engaging in Dharma, that they are doing so in order to be happy. Now, as it says here, but there's no guarantee. that happiness will be the result of their activities or their endeavors or their striving. It's a mistaken methodology that they are often using. But there's no mistake that even the very movement of sentient beings is towards happiness, away from suffering, etc. It's a fundamental element of being alive. But there is certainly no certainty around whether happiness is going to be the result, whether they will get what they're looking for. And it's often the case that it's manifest, isn't it, to us that they do not get, most people do not get what they're looking for. People who kind of concentrate on making money, determined that money is going to make them happy. But we can see that it's manifestly not the case for them. Many who have the karma to make the money do not have the karma to use the money that they have made. Whether they die, too early, or they are scammed, or they misuse the money, they all this effort, and it's only caused a lot of misery for them.
맨 첨단 내가 첨단에 팀 잡았다 tu네. 무서워 그 팀가라 깨니 대고 되는 것도. 그러? 가셔야 욕자리 중. 아니 무서워도 소소 배주 땅 마배 받자 냐냐 사사사. 다만 내주지 통한테 우리잖아. 봐서 깨자 전에 욕자 매워서야 탑시 두. 이내야 아니 패스웰로 쓰고래. 근데 걔는 팀가라 또. 아니 무디가 그가 로열 땅 대소라 잡죠 전에. And so
some they have to the law, it gets involved with their money, and they have either some sort of trouble that they have to employ lawyers, etc., to take their issue to court. And of course that's a very quick way of really using up all your hard-earned money that they have worked so hard to keep, and then just because of some issue, a law issue, they have to waste all their money on getting it sorted out in a court of law.
감주도 된대게 내서 망고도가 문에잖아 내주 침복해 말해 내주 침복해 말해 충주되는 이말이나야.
So the issue of making a mountain out of a molehill, something that you have a dispute with somebody else that could have been sorted out through further respectful discussion, but one person says no, I've got money, I'm going to take you to court, and we're going to hammer this out in the court of law. And of course then that the result is obvious then. So we have the situation around this world where there is this striving for happiness, which often results in suffering, and certainly often does not guarantee happiness as a result. And so even when we go shopping, we have the capacity to buy and to take our shopping home, but debt is definite, the time of debt is indefinite, etc. We may not even have the time to enjoy the shopping we have. It remains in the fridge, and we're long gone. So there's kind of this sense of absolute inconsistency or unreliability in this cyclic existence. And the pursuit of happiness is all very well, but whether we attain happiness is highly doubtful at the best. And so we have our appearance as well being very, very unreliable. We can, the happiness that we are seeking is often or not thwarted by our own ignorance, and we kind of like incompetent in our pursuit of happiness. This is not an error that we can accuse the great bodhisattvas of, because they always have the benefit of all sentient beings in mind, and that their result is enlightenment in order to benefit of all sentient beings. And it's sort of a guarantee here that, when they are doing what they're doing to make others happy, it's the great secret of their own happiness, that they are fully engrossed and focused on the benefit of all others. And so this becomes an unmistaken means to bring about not just their own happiness, but indeed the happiness of all sentient beings. And we can see also that it is an unmistaken approach, which is fueled by wisdom.
랑제제 야와도 셴체버 신제 지금 요때 이네 유이드서 랑셈 기부 바페보 유튜브에 갑라야 아니 데보야 쪽다 메게 다 산지게 줄을 줘 되게 다 들으지 가자 가서데 지금 눈치 매바제 용 되기도 와 추바 매바제 용 되기도 발제 매바제 용 되기도 와용 되기도 와
So from the Bodhisattva's point of view, that they are, it's kind of like that which brings happiness at the time of the cause and the result, that they are, understanding that it is others' happiness that is the focus here, and that they are saying, ignoring myself, but completely engrossed in the happiness of all others. It is the guaranteed cause for enlightenment, and therefore an unmistaken way of actually establishing happiness for oneself. It is also a means, the practice that has no obstacles to it, no impediments to it, and where you're fully focused on the benefit of other. You're completely dismissing anything to do with yourself. And that is the guaranteed way of really pursuing true happiness.
다 되네 인자 지금 주주배 값소 인내다 제부 값소 인내다 추바 매바 용해야 돼 다가자 그 주만원 와지 조고도 주만원 와지 조고도 삼로 만원 와지 땅고도 그러다 사이콜로지가 조당 사이콜로지가 조당 만원 와지 고도 땅 하나도 돼 대화 저거 요때 대회 솔 동에 무튼 용돼 그래서 뭐자 삼로 땅다지 그 가서나 제 산제가 소셔와 말이야. 가서 주단 제보 쓰는데 릭트베 줄래 릭트베 제보 연구 여바 인사 티지 노트가 요다. 티 노트가 되고 좀 노트 받잖아. 노트 받잖아. 다 삼로 땅나 건데스 땅 바이나 주의도서야 대화 요게. 제비 가서야 대화 요게 삼로 만원 건데스 땅 것도 땅 것도 지금 냠용제 싸잖아. 냠용제 싸잖아. 다 로아 냠용제 노트 받잖아. 다 싸서 냠용 용구 요때 있는 뭐마도 온게 딱 뭐쳐 봤잖아. 뭐쳐 봤잖아. 딱 삼로 된데지 땅 임바 있나? 다른 것도 남주 땅을 제 땅 임바 있나? 유익 값소야 대화 개민도. 유티산의 제비 값소야 대화 개 용해 민도. 다 계세 단위 전부 소 임바 있나? 권한 주고 삼로 땅다 제와는 유익 값소 있나야? 대화도 제비 값소에는 시에 먹어버려 대화 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 배 가서래다 지금 가서래 대화를 받지 매받잖아 다 산재게 대화 죽두고도 오다 디고 좀 못해 받잖아 아니 계세가 저발 쪼아게 전다 죽고 요다
So here it's important to engage in the cause in a non-mistaken way. In that way, we can experience the result, a non-mistaken result, likewise. And so that a non-mistaken cause arises from unmistaken thinking. Therefore, it's the psychology that we must have right. Here we have the understanding that when at the beginning we put in the right thinking, and then we can expect, we don't even have to expect, but we know that there will be happiness at the other end, as it were, at the resultant side of things. And so this is something that, it goes beyond even what the Buddha has taught. It goes into the law of cause and effect, where there is a correlation between cause and effect. There's when we have a cause that is in harmony with that result, then that result is inevitable and it will happen. And this is something that, we need to not just understand, but the experience at an experiential level to kind of really generate what needs to be done at that level. That to recognize this, really recognize this, is to kind of really accept it, and to accept it is to put it into practice. That that the idea here, when you recognize that whatever I'm doing is in order to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, that therefore the cause, whatever I'm doing in terms of the causal time, at the causal time, it brings with it almost an inherent joy and delight engaging in it, because the result ultimately is going to be enlightenment to the benefit of all sentient beings. And the causal element has totally a focus of benefiting sentient beings. And so here, one is just saying that all of what I'm doing then can have no obstacle, no doubt, no impediment, no hesitation, because I'm working for the benefit of all. I'm working to attain that enlightenment so that I can be perfectly able to benefit all. And so it's kind of like to visualize that this is how Bodhisattva lives. This is their whole raison d'etre. They completely engrossed in even at the causal level, that sense of joy in what they're doing, because it's guaranteed to have a joyous result. And so from that, we take on the joy of wanting to really emulate the actions of a bodhisattva.
기바 나 지달 때때스로 다 간제 나도 레 당보아 속에 아니 디나신 삼로 조다는 마치 바체 아니 삼로 조다는 투바 아니 대와 두고 여바르데 이내야 대외 주 삼로 땅당 투바지는 마치 바체네 란 젠생의 샤완도 주네 지금 여바 인자 대대베 레미 지금 여바 장주 삼바 삼로 땅을 이제 땅 두고 여마래 대대 미제 봤대 먹이바 임바 인자 아니 장주 삼바는 이제 유가서 대화 용게 제비 가서 대화 가서는 비다고 용된 다 산지기 아니 디기도 용두고 했는데 그래서 용두고 그랬어. 그 당분에 거기 용에게 자주 써봐서 용에 가서 란체스를 견도다는 현재발성화 시대 뒤 돈에 다 용되게 열어봐. 아니 내가 대화 주의 가서 대화 제비 가서 대화 용거를 나서 내당 뭐 들었던 거는 란체발성에 진정의 권해라는 지금 여봐 인자 당번에 놀 사버렸다. 놀 사버린데 아니 유에 가서야 지금 대화 비다고 용되게 아니 디 데뷔 가서 비다고 용되도 그 영화 거라 영말했어. 그래서 그 영화에 줄을랍기면 도와. 디 말하면 가와 용거래서 그러더라. 데이터비 랩 미게바자 미제바 인자 미게바 인자 아니 가르치는 용 디고 몰음자는 영화에 그 말에 그 그때 주 제발 때는 연구에서 주 때문에 지금 싸매 와서 대부도 연구에 말 지다 대대 대화 가봐 연구래 연구 말을 왔어 연구 말을 왔어 가서 내 내추럴 로를 왔대 그때 되게 된 것도나 주 가서 되게 그 제별 가서 되게 이거 되고 도나 아니 뒤주 현재 발생할 때는 연구를 해 따와데 유대나 마주봐 라운드 마주봐 오버 마리벨라 그게 시원도 마주봐 돈을 연구 따와 디 시대는 전에 아니 따와 디다 투베 돈에 아니 현재 발생할 때는 아니 연구 그래 다디 삼로 디 아니 가서데 시대데 매바이나 안 제부 디다 투마지 되네 용하거나 요마로 왔어 그 랑가베 노르타서 왔어 랑가 노르타나 아니 그 딱다 절리가 마로 와 디승거도 와 벨랍자 쳐버리자 랍자 쳐버리자
So as the verse number 64 continued, it says, but how can those whose work itself is joy find happiness unless they do it? And so it's saying it's good, fine to talk about it, but you've got to do it. You've got to actually do it. And here it's saying that, you know, if we're thinking in any sense of our own happiness when we're at the point of the cause, in other words, any kind of virtue that we're entering into at the initial stage, if it's kind of if any kind of sense of or scent of self-cherishing in our own action, and then it's kind of like we have to realize that we've blown it. That how can happiness be the result of that? You know, we're kind of like investing in our own selfishness into what we're doing, and it does not accord with the law of cause and effect. And so this is something that we must get straight at the outset. And so when we have that mind of enlightenment, when we act according to the mind of a bodhisattva who is not entering into anything that is not 100% dedicated to the benefit of others, then we can be guaranteed. Then we can have some confidence in the fact that, you know, even though we're not thinking about this, but we know that the result is going to be happiness at the other end. And so it's kind of like you have to be able to do it. And so what our question is as beginners is really to examine and to find out, how can I act as a bodhisattva acts? So in this particular situation, what would a bodhisattva do? How would they set their mind for this particular act of virtue? And so that's what we have to understand, to really try and get that motivation clear in our minds. And so it's kind of like, you know, to be able to assure that, you know, at the end of this, there's going to be happiness, and that the happiness is something that must be perceived both at the beginning and the end, at the cause and the resultant side of things. That any self-cherishing that is involved is clearly a mistake. And so when we examine it further, we know that, you know, that tiny percentage of self-cherishing that is involved is scuppering my whole act of virtue. How can happiness be a result of that? And that's that we're kind of flying in the face of the natural law, right? We've got to have others in mind, just like a bodhisattva, that the others in mind must completely suffuse our whole thinking, and that this is the basis of any action that I engage in. That then they're kind of like, once I'm able to do that right, there is no chance that the action I'm engaging at the causal level is in any way contaminated, and that it is a pure action. So I kind of like, as the beginner, I really have to put it up to myself. I've got to get it right at the causal level, right? To really put the effort in at the causal level. The result will look after itself.
What did it? That Ngarado let and go, Jet the Garrisonata, Chicago, Negapchilla, go corne. Rota, ran changing Shawan to do, Tanzan Maribe, Mombegi, and Shawan to June, but that the go corjanet, nigga with the Gitchilla go corjanet, that did you want to, and during both some Latang majority, and pull a new ticket. Pull a new ticket. Penacasa de Tadina Sunda Casa, put your swatch at Tansi Tas, what in the shit. Right, Casa de D. Besh, no wish would you call it Tangzi June, Shashawa enough. But 당고 정지의 뇽도 제게 다와이나 정지의 뇽도 나모데 시부르지 열바 시부 열바 로다 부디 소자 정지에서 제 냥배 로 중세 뇽야다 정지가 로 중세 뇽네 소소를 지금 가나를 연구를 때 이내야 이 다디 가서래 최습네 맞아봐이나 남지는 제체에 내가도 열바 제체적으로 와 제체배 동의 용화 용화지용되기로 와서 가서 다른 소소를 넣어야 돼 용되기도 와. 그러다 란 제발 심배 온게 아니 지금 제원도 아니 지금 가서래 투비 내가 그 디기 투비 된대지게 그 된대지게 아니 디게 전부 쓰는 정도 다디 라 뭐바메바 제원도 아니 남시나 아니 모두는 동의 용해지. 아니 차라보다 동안 영화 되지. 와다 배째 체로와이나 아니 강에 시부지 체기로 와. 와다 디나 시제는 수고요래. 와다는 좀 가서 부디 가서 소를 창배해서 장지 제 양반나 로주 중세 영양 아니 다 제체배 동네도 연구유도 동네 영화 따버렸어. 다 가자 나라도 세대 개체부지 란첸제다 안 다제 머리배 생활도 줘봐이나 내가 그 나라서 지금 다디 가서데 다 가자 지금 나라서 되봐 인사 아니 되배 녀몽기 착바디 여인세 아니 지금 가서래다 지금 팀이 전화를 연구 열때 이나 탈 소소로 내용하지 탈 내용하지 용되기도 다 가자 그런 먼저 사회 통해 그걸 찾아다 사회 통해 되게 그걸 찾아다 아직 초치를 상도 소소수 보라 팽거에 봐서 아니 간자들은 소소수 보라 내용화 중고도 와 내용화 연구도 와 다가 이제 내가 대대지를 찾아버려 다 내용화 중고도 와 다 때마지 아니 뒤두에 그 주다 되게 망고지 삼았다 아니 되자다 세장다 랑전전다 되게 생활주도 아니 모두는 코알네 아니 녀석 동안 못하면 밖에 다들 내서 망고지 용되기도 와 용되기도 와 좋아 아니 뒤두에 채도 아니 뒤 숨겹지에 채도 아니 다가는 가서데 랑다 신 예와체체네 아니 랑조를 차봐先做了 당와 기도에 다들 내서 망고지는 모두는 코알네 얘기 백가서데 지가서래 저기 나 칭다소를 담샤거도 도가 어떤데 용되기도 와 어떤데 배자는 수고도 와 어떤데
And so then the classic example that is used, as in verse 65, if I feel that I never have enough sensual objects, which are like honey smeared upon a razor's edge. And this is the classic kind of state of here for us as beginners, It was saying, we want this temporary thrill. We want this momentary fulfillment. And that, again, what is behind our motivation when we're chasing these kinds of experiences? It is self-cherishing and grasping at a self-entity, the true existence of a self-entity. And that, we see the honey here on the razor's edge, sharp razor's edge. We can't resist it. It's kind of this kind of a attachment, this craving for the sweetness of the honey. And we extend our tongue to get some, and we have this momentary sweet taste, and then a cut tongue. And so it's kind of like really pointing to the fact that this kind of a craving for these kinds of thrills and this kind of happiness is inevitably going to end in suffering. That's the way it's going to be. And so it's kind of like there is no abiding satisfaction. And this, again, we're talking about this characteristic of cyclic existence, that there's kind of like always this element, this container of suffering that we fall into at the end of any of these kind of temporary chasing after thrills of cyclic existence. Well, that this is for those who consider this life to be so important. Again, they are operating under the influence of self-grasping and self-cherishing, and that they are very attached to fulfilling their own desires. And that's always going to lead to a sticky end. It's always going to lead to a kind of a suffering end. Take eating, drinking, for so on and so on. You know, we have the need for that to maintain a healthy body, but so many people just go beyond that, and that you know, ultimately they're harming their body by the types of food or the quantity of food, etc., and drink that they consume. And so this is you know, something that again always needs careful consideration. And that again, you know, the casual attachments we have to those who we consider our people, and the casual aversion that we have towards those we consider not our people. You know, these, we need to kind of like realize that all we are doing is perpetuating our residency in cyclic existence, and the and investing in our own suffering. And so kind of like we have to realize that we must protect ourselves from all of this by finding some other higher calling, a higher way of living from moment to moment, because it's certainly not working at the moment.
我的，他感觉这个个说的，我那阵那个，哎，你第几就蛮多啊，你这个国的蛮多啊，真的，我打这个的主办人呢，你特别对哇，特别，特别对哇的，你蛮多啊，蛮多啊，就用这个了。我的了讲，我那等那个就蛮多啊，的了，我把没把中国人是，是吧？我把没把去了，我把，个啥民国把，等主办人呢，给这个。 기타 올해 다가자 두바이나 아니 남이 내가 아니 모두 토비에 대화당 아니 시와대 타도 안gel에 토바 제베 소놈다 이시그 속에 장세 다니 전부 다제 전부 대다고 지던 것만 밑에 봐시노도 다 안데레 그 아니 모두 아니 가서대 다가자 저 가서 그 다들 시원양대 다도 산제 고마 토예게 아니 주디게데 다가자저 뭐 죽은 게다 계속 다니 전부 되는 게 아니 뭐만 봐 죽고 그래서 뭐만 봐 가자 죽고 말했던 죽고 와서 그래서 내가 야 디기 용대야 아니 다도야 아니 디기 만노 맞춰 가지고 용대들 아니 가자 죽고 말해 뭐만 봐 아니 두바치 그래서
And so the last two lines of that verse 65, which say, then why should I ever feel that I have enough merit which ripens in happiness and peace? And this is explained in terms of, you know, the Bodhisattva is engaged in the accumulation of merit and wisdom in order to attain the temporary ripening effect of a positive human rebirth, then and also the definite goodness of the peace of nirvana, but ultimately and most importantly the state of enlightenment, the benefit of all sentient beings. And that in the course of the merit and the wisdom that they are achieving, that they are accumulating, a bodhisattva is never satisfied with how much of that is accumulated. It's that sense of wanting more and more and more. And so here it's about from, really establishing an unmistaken cause, to really work hard at making sure that at the causal side of action, that we're entering into it in an unmistaken way, that we're entering into all of this in the right order. That when we are talking about the happiness that we want, which is perfectly valid, we are looking after the temporary happiness as well as the ultimate happiness, and that this is how a bodhisattva sets about things, and so we should emulate the methodology of the bodhisattvas.
我的理解，大感觉这个说的，其他我做彻底切多，那这个电视过来、推荐过来、商业通业过来，两个结果的，这个更加的路上的，可是呢，甚至他们这个都三界国嘛，中国的，这主要就是绿错过的，绿错完了推荐这个的过过的，第一切都中国有三十结完以呢，结完以呢，俺们说这个，俺们这个说的。本来看把咱们说完以内，这可说的，咱感觉这个那个结完了，看的结完这个看看，确这边推荐也上山进来，这古龙团呢，刚差不多个，年内进来7百亿呢，说的结完这个看看，这推荐这个的，long结就然了，马上那个结束嘛的，但人呢推荐的这边可多古龙。讲究个生活身边可能这样的，这不3个月就了做的，做的，这干啥的多？这我做蛮多节气，特别让真这个想法都讲的结完以呢，让真这个想法都讲的结完以后，第二天呢，木头呢，他可以给，他花点的当一起，下来，当他第二天呢，当他的说是干了结完的了，这不中华的那个浪节人有没有在天做么的多？ 7万남친 예매 이제 중앙 예매 태좀래도 얘네 아니 저 세정제 대화 얘네 아니 소소그 사베 딱 내가 전에 중앙 무이나 잘라이나 가리나데 소소로 론체주 예매데 태좀래도 그 통대에 들어왔다 통대다 다 딜레 소소 디 두베 갑라 아니 꿀론 약보제 캔데 제바이나 디 론체주 마저와 있네 야 꿀론 대이 온게 산게 줄라 조대 디 튕겨라 조대 给我起码本着嘞，这个讲究个生活两年节啥个，等这个春节准备个了，看多用啥了吧，是吧？真的是说是干了讲吧的，春节的说了，看多浪节就马就往原来呀，说个没有的，甚至个段准备吃的7万100以上，第你把它点呢，这个讲你的讲究什么的，这个的公平都出来了，看啥了吧？ 펜서와 안다가네 제바데 아니 제바 근데 지구 요반데 유대는 주가 말이야 또 받아 잡으랬으나 아니 지금 데레서 동네게 따외 게담네 제마데 동네게 따와래 예바 숙체도 체도 니 도에 로와 예바 체도 숙체도 체도 니 도에라 편도 용서로 와 로와 저 가서는 뭐죠 코알에 게 잡아래 아니 되게 나는 뭐죠 되봐야 돼 되봐인데 아니 되베게 돼 롱마제랑 제래 등 롱마제랑 제래 안디 롱체와티 산제가 고마 주베게 안 주시다 대화샤네 치마이나 아니 고 가서서 캡타한테 렌토도 와. 다 개취 되려 봐. 어디래? 가서 뭐저 미시건 가서나 니와 유건지로 와. 니와 가서나 가서 땡기 동네 세트에 땡기 대화 줍투에 땡기 니와 유건지 레도 왔다 미 조상 제바이나 얘네 다 누구한테 배줘 당시 마시는 거 내줄로 가로 와. 계속 다니 쳐보서 그 당신 그 요래. 모두 내 당고 저 당신 그 요 말이야. 다디 개바지로 와.
So in this life, of course, just to live a life, we have to engage in many different activities. We have to eat, we have to work, we have to, look after the body, take care of the body. We have to clean the house, etc. Do all the mundane things. But what we need to take care of is the motivation with which we engage in all of these activities. They may be mundane, but we can really upgrade all of these activities through maintaining a motivation that what I am doing is looking after this life, looking after this body, in order that I can put it to service, into service for sentient beings. And to kind of keep that motivation, it just really transforms everything that we engage in into something extraordinary. And because, if I can create the cause for enlightenment out of all of these activities, then I know that the result ultimately will be enlightenment itself. So it's kind of like in same, that if we earn a lot of money, but we're not careful about how we use it, and all of our possessions and so on, it's a moot point whether they are actually going to lead to any kind of happiness or not. It's never guaranteed anyway. So, but if we are looking after our motivation as something which is, first and foremost importance, then the effort that we subsequently put in, to really see that our object of all my actions is the happiness and benefit of sentient beings, that adds a great deal of power to our actions. And we can really make that a habit, we can also even instill the theory of emptiness into what we're doing, to understand that all phenomena are merely imputed by thought. They cannot exist independently. So you're increasing your store of wisdom and merit by the actions that you're engaging in, that you have to bear in mind. Of course, I'm in cyclic existence. I know that's the desire realm, and therefore there is this kind of overwhelming, it's kind of like overwhelmingly surrounded by desire. But what we have to see is we need to distinguish whether we are using all of this to create the causes for a permanent residency in cyclic existence, or whether we are using our human intelligence, that which is really helps us to stand out from all others, and to really be able to discern clearly what would be what course of action we should take, and to be able to distinguish the course of action that is going to lead to suffering or the course of action that is going to lead to happiness. And we must be able to use this tool that we have, this one kind of superior attitude that we have, to be able to make the decision that I am going to use my time in cyclic existence, this desire realm, to see the conditions that are available to me to ensure that I'm creating the causes for enlightenment.
아니 데데 차베 차바디 안디 샤마도 마다지 데데 다 데데게 차바디 아니 로아타페나 지가서데 지게 지 조아뇽에 이나다 미게 다 수통에 이나다 다 되게 디통에가디 아니 지가서 수통아디 아니 라완도 마주바 아니 거 가리가리 때리 요구도 뭐지 아니 조아뇽아데레 라완도 좀도 짜지잖아 아니 지 다 망고질라 초안에 에네 좋아디 연구 요바트 라완도 마주바트 뭐다 녀바녀도에 근데 루그 렉자가 대화로 모두 착바디 요래 요데 루그 렉자 대화디 라완도 좀도 뭐다 라완도 좀도 제바 제원도 아니 마주바디 녀바녀도 다 용다 되고 때내 중간면도 조사면도 그 라완도 마주바 마주바도 ngoto 그 매베 되어 많이 받잖아 마주바디도 그 여바도 영에 두고요 다 여다는 거라서 그 때내 중간면도 레몬도 왔어 좋아 라완의 두바이나 거두이네 렉자 대회 초아이면 되려면도 삼삼민도 와 다들 디 좀자 가르된 거라서 그 라완의 마주바디 다들 된 것도 왔어 어떠냐 저 동반이 니랑 여바 아니 라완의 마주바 대가야 셈도 샤 샘도샤도 동바디 인가래야 대화대 나도 뭐가 이제면 알아도 동바디 모습을 또 하면서 대화도 요 말이 단다 요 말이 때 이래야 랑이 뺀 지가서 딜라 샘제직도 샤네 딜레 아니 동바디 인가래 대화 뭐가 이제가 삼로당 계속 삼사제 대화디 예배 로데 동바 또 삼사제 어디에 데네 삼로당이나 아니 거기 이내 초학교에 중앙인바이네 내가 그래서 딜레 삼로당이나 니람나래 삼로 용도해지 니람나래 중앙인바네 치외급서 용도해지 어다가 단단히 다디 지고로 와 어떤데 삼로 다들 그거 가리래 요래 그러다 그 소다디 록자 근세질래 인바인데 아니 소소 내가 레사다 아니 내가 라와이네 양딜라 때네 삼로당에 내가 쇼바이네 데라운드 두모도 잡아제네 산 그래서 내가 그래 차와이네 똥반이랑 예반이 투에지 예반이 투에고 가서 내가 이제 강가 지대다 대비 초근데 지나 라와도 마두바 임바 인사 아니 디 라와도 마두바 예반이 예사가 시요래 어디서 데가 삼로당은 강가 추트베 튕겨를 배주 땅도 바이나 아니 경화라고 문도 디 여바데 뭐 여기 내주들 먼저 삼로 마당 왔지 아니 녀몽께서 차바께서 샤당께서 데 저 고콘에 치마이나 아니 뭐도 최다 태바 고마 줘버려 뒤는 태바 첨비 최다 태바도 고마 줘봐 자로 와 고마 줘봐 잡아 원다 인자 지금서 뭐도 최고 롭좀 제바데 딱 프랙티컬 그릇 제고도 왔다 근데 갈아 봤자네 제도 봐 얘는 뒤주 돌아 도면 돼
So, we're in the desire realm, which means that we are subject to kind of interpreting so much of our world through the senses, whether what we see, hear, what we smell, taste, and touch, and so on. And so we very much can be under the influence of that sensual interpretation, when we taste something, when we see something. But we need to really introduce the thinking on emptiness into all of these situations. Does this particular taste, is it something that is self-powered? It is something that is coming from its own side, to engage in the analytical approach. And when we kind of like the body's the touch of a human body of something that can generate that sense of desire, that sense of attachment. Again, that they're, we can again bring in that theory of emptiness. Is it something that is established from its own side? Is it something that is self-powered? To reach that point of understanding that all of these phenomena simply arise in dependence. They're not something that it can exist from their own side. That does not mean that they are non-existent, but the way in which they exist is different to the way that they appear, and that they have this arising independence on causes and conditions, etc. That's why sometimes the feeling is there, sometimes the feeling is not there. And so we get to the point of the mere negation of the object of negation in these deliberations is very, very useful to say that, what I am, really trying to establish here, that things are not established in the way that they appear, even though, I'm operating at the level of imagination and aspiration, that I have this. I want to habituate with this way of thinking. I want to be able to interpret my world and the life I'm in this way, to kind of not take it for granted, but to put it to analysis, even to the point that in my dreams, when these things arise, I can again employ the deliberation on emptiness, right? And so now is the time. This is my preparation time, really. This is the time in which I should be putting all of that thinking into place, so that it is automatic and spontaneous. In all situations, say my work, whether I'm getting a new job or whether I'm losing an old job, that again, I use the situation to examine, the kind of how self-established is this situation, and gaining conviction more and more and more in the fact that phenomena are merely imputed by thought. They do not exist from their own side. And to really use the situation, and in all the situations, to turn it into a Dharma event. There can be no fault in doing that. And so it's important that we are doing this, that that our study is actually having a practical benefit for us, that we are able to integrate it into our lives. Otherwise, it's kind of like, you're leaving all of this great Mahayana mind training kind of at a distance, keeping it at a distance and not applying it. It becomes sort of like pointless. So it's kind of like very important that we are integrating what we are learning into all the situations of our life, and ensuring that we're not wasting our time.
그래. 다 간제 저 맞아 삼로 마당하면도 최탐제 랑완도 마주 받대 가서 최탐제 뭐유 내주래. 아니 간제 라바 차원나 간제 통화이나 내가 갈 배주 당사요래. 그 배주 땅도 받잖아. 그 마다자디 파데샤 아니 녀mol라 구급 때문에 침바이나 아니 뭐도 두주 문에 돌아도 그래. 두주 문에 돌아도 그래. 왔다 간제 디 먼저 삼로 사나 토나 다 간제 거기에 삼로 들었다 아니나 대응이라서 니람나래 삼로들레 투그래 니람나래 삼도레 토나 아니 치가 나갈래 삼도레 치가 나갈 삼로레 토나 또 빼고 왔더니 안 되게서 거 가서 배나 나게 조당 토나 소한테 미게 치와모도 치와에 생모도 차한테 거 강가를 차한테 돈이 무슨도 또 하나씩 차고 이내야 남주 공부하면은 아니 거 마이 외세 차와라 다가라래 다 남주 동네를 공부하이나 디디 아니 가서데 뒷동반이 임바 뭐지 쳐두바이나 동반이 예바 예두바이나 아니 마부 쳐두고 와 얘네 동반이 무슨 또요 국업 지어를 쓴 것도 와 가서 디디 바제 요마래 가서나 단다디 가서래 단다 뭐저 셰바라고 디게도 마가 사뒤 아니 셰바 참모 바신 것도 교대도 다들 국업이 약수들이 맞다 그러와 다디 국업대 단단해 동반이 가리 간데 통화이나 간데 쳐바이나 간데 창화이나 간데 사바이나 디건가 동반이게 대시 마냐마토네 제토바이나 아니 닐람나래 가리 나와나 가리 통화이나 동반이게 대시 마냐마죠 아니 시도도이나 대시 마냐마죠 용도 그러와 뭐 근데 저때 모두 국업 약고도 왔다 단단데 다디 제토나
So whether we are thinking in terms of the emptiness of the theory doctrine of emptiness or not, it is the actuality of life anyway. This is the way things are. We should try to employ this in every aspect of our lives, even like in terms of what we're doing with our hands and from left to right, etc. That what we are doing is that we are taking the moment to put it into Dharma context, because otherwise mental fiction will take its chance and we will be wasting our time. And so for every situation that we are in, we should try to adopt the Dharma attitude, the Dharma thinking. And there's none better than the reflecting on the emptiness and the emptiness of true reality. And that to be able to do so much that it actually starts to appear in our dreams. And this is very important. So we mentioned preparation beforehand. And so what we are preparing for is the time of death. And so when we have that, examining the self at the time of death, we do not want to be overcome by the fear of kind of losing our self-identity or anything like that, but to really click into our meditation on emptiness, for that to be the thought that arises at that point of death, because at that point of death, it's an extraordinary opportunity because we are free of interferences to that thought, because the coarse minds at that point will have dissolved and we will be exposed to the more subtle levels of mind, and clear light mind of death, etc., where we can fully reflect or fully focus on that thought of emptiness. But it starts now. This is the preparation time where we familiarize ourselves with that sort of thinking, even to the point of in our dreams, and so that it will be the one that arises in our mind at the time of death.
그래서 마부 모트에 쓰기도 마부 모트에 쓰기 좋자. Clear light is the my USA cherwa, my USA, and the USA chatu, and Tombanigi, and Guash Letubaina, and Mabu mother book motoba.
So it's the
Sun killer light and Casa.
The mother clear light, and then the sun clear light. And you want that.
Samlutana Tombanigi, Guach and Legatis, Naranzu, Koranchi Juamarwa, Naranzu, and where you can nature day, and Casa the Samlo Chatwa, Samlo Chatwa, Bui clear lights, Gorata, sun clear lights. And Rangsing, Tomba Chade, Jorata, Marasuna, Tombani, Gua, Yumila Matova Chade, mother killer lights. Was that didn't watch Vaina, and Tony was on the Google of your Sudwa.
So it's at that point at that point of death, then you have that sort of generated reflection on emptiness being the sun clear light, and that then joins with that which the naturally arising clear light, the mother clear light. That is a quintessential point for us to realize emptiness directly. And Genla says, very, very good, isn't it, that we don't have to develop the mental quiescence beforehand.
What did they shout?
We'll leave it there for today.
What did that? The Lamatuang set up the shop or the lecture, and then Nyanjung Semji Combatia and come to draw the color. Give a yinaya, and where you go to Melata, as a Tumela Mate, what is just. What the Nyanjung get, and then Nyanjung gave a lot, you get pump also Juvale, and then Pematamaja Rangi Chiwal, Pematamaja, which was then Sinanga Chukana, you didn't want to say my potash of Kumbashet, and then gave a lot, and then a lot of Takaja, you go home to home, so you make one young was just that seems that Tamji no Sanya Kumamaton to Toba chicken, so logic. Then they go to Bate directing one young was just, but there's a lot of Kuzu to Mudu so at 담배 가서 배, 니베 가서 쇼, 수메 가서 아니 때도시나 산제 고마마도 was just 아니 야라도 멘데다 잡아 어떻게.
And so we begin our meditation on renunciation, really, the fact that cyclic existence being in the nature of suffering, there is no genuine happiness to be had. And we develop this sense of definite emergence from this state of suffering to attain liberation. This is the mind of renunciation, which is symbolized by the letter Bam, which transforms into the lotus mandala seat on our crown. Then we reflect how all inner and outer phenomena lack any objective existence. There's something that's merely imputed by thought. That really reflecting on this till we get to the point of the mere negation of the object of negation. And this is symbolized by the syllable hung, which again transforms into the sun mandala seat on our crown. Finally, the implications of our reflection on emptiness being that phenomena therefore must arise in dependence. And it clears the way for us to really envisage the attainment of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient being, because it validates the whole law of cause and effect. We can lay down these causes to attain that result. And so with renewed invigoration, I really I motivate to attain a state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. This mind of enlightenment is symbolized by the syllable A, which transforms into the moon disk mandala on my crown. And then I utter the invocation verse thrice. So, glorious and precious root guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your great kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the Guru Buddha moves from the merit field in front. At the end of the second, it arrives at my pre-prepared seat on my crown. And at the end of the third, we have the certainty that the Guru Buddha will remain until we attain enlightenment. This brings us forth a sense of joy and rejoicing. And then we make the offerings of the 7 limbs of prayer and the mandala offering.
양종 연종 공부 시조전 근데 연종 예외 로데네 랑게 닝게 거데 이게 빰 랑게 닝데 이게 빰질라 조소 빰 요소 줘발래 네 빼마다 맞죠 조소 선서자 아니 지나가 저 근데 저 유대도 두산 코다 줘봐 공부시 근데 예외 로데 이 홍원수 줘발래 아니 님의 좀 약한 조소 스타 근데 뭐 인자 심제 담제기도 산제 고마마도 타면 토바 지금 선서 공부시 근데 예외 듬바디 아니 이게 아직 알다 이게 뭐냐 반대자가 라마를 뭐지 다게 닌가 빼면데 그저 구수 투정 것도 짜도서 쓰대잖아 담배 가서 패 니베 가서 수배 때는 산제 고마마도 뭐지 소스되네 닝배마 담나 잡아다 인데 스마 좀는 남주 닝내다는 대가도 도지가고 장가바 체가지 가게 뒤 타고도 또 장가 다 어머니는 마음이 와서 어머니는 마음에서 어머니는 와서 좀 무슨 거다 되네 지도 잠에 가서 엄마 알아봐서 나 디디디디디디스 봐서 되네 된내게 나 어머 얘다마 해도 맞춰만 해서 되는 무슨 거다 보자 아랑이 니기서 lama tube obo nebati ane kusung tole wese tene rangi chibone kandi go pala wese tene ane thoma mewa dikpa de tibare keba to yata so choba majemba lo misang choba an zun sama tsu ngaje nakse no zo lota la so ta ga chebe khana ma do ran khana ma da setila saba senga mal saba ti nga ma te thoma mewa sabe nyaba kede chuma ta ne jo soda do ba da ko cha ju se ba la ba da ko sanga ge ta te da ko pada ma la ma gu ba da chebo do lobe la ma gu ba da do so ba do ku jo so le ne 제가 레기와 담배 쥐어 파베 균들로 고았다와 습자라 뇌벨 내줘 또나 토리다 답에 계속 저 코하다 예수님도 간제저 여바이네 장제 다소 중소서 아니 라도도 다 최주베 미데데 야고주 고고유데 소소 르그 권는데 셈그 권는데 직강에 태바데 여바 되게 뭐 장제 다고 중소 섬사자 다가 이제 자 롱틸레 교연데 저 장네 아니 장네 다 반자 장소 상상 어디를 주시 권녀보 야고 차소 상사자 당연히 이게 다 주도 사제 고마토를 교연 제시다 탐에게 나셔 교연 탐제 장네 가나 사제 다바람 잡아시 차도 야고 중소 쓰도 고마자
And then we reflect again on the renunciation, that cyclic existence being in the nature of suffering. Again, this is symbolized by the syllable Bam, which transforms into the lotus mandala seat at our own heart center. And again, reflecting on the fact of all inner and outer phenomena lacking any objective existence or any sense of being self-powered. Again, this is symbolized by the syllable Hong, which transforms into the sun mandala seat at our heart center. And then the desire to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. The mind of enlightenment is symbolized by the syllable Ah, which transforms into the moon mandala seat at our own heart center. Again, we say the invocation verse thrice, O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure moves down through the crown chakra into the central channel. At the end of the second recitation, the Guru Buddha has arrived at our pre-prepared seat at the heart. And at the end of the third, again, we have that beautiful certainty that the Guru Buddha will remain to take care of us until we attain the state of enlightenment. Again, then the petals of the lotus fold over and are joined and sealed at their tips by a white 5-pronged vajra. That package then is surrounded by 3 mantras. The name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha going in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri going in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependent arising going in a clockwise direction. So then light begins to emanate from the Guru Buddha within this, again, permeating through the petals, through every cell of our body, from the soles of our feet to the crown of our head, and really operating at the atomical level to completely purify all negativities and obscurations that we have accumulated since a beginningless time, including the 10 non-virtues of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, of lying, of harsh speech, of divisive speech and idle gossip, of covetousness, malicious intent, and wrong view, of all the negativities that we have accumulated over the course of this life, the previous life, the one previous to that, going right back to beginningless time and taking into consideration every rebirth that we have ever had, of the negativities that are naturally occurring negativities and all those activities that have been proscribed by the Buddha himself. And then also any infractions or downfalls related to the Pratimoksa vows or the Bodhisattva vows or the Tantric vows, all the negativities that we have accumulated from showing disrespect from our parents right up to our gurus, etc. Any kind of infractions wherever you've abandoned the Dharma or caused a schism within the Sangha. All the negativities that are now arising as impediments to our physical or mental well-being, which of course encroaches on our capacity to engage in spiritual practice. All of the imbalances in our channels, winds and drops, that all of these are kind of rebalanced, and that indeed anything that is interfering with our practice, particularly that which is an impediment to our quickly being able to attain enlightenment, which is our ordinary view, and that is now transformed into pure view.
어디서 소소 시도 저 루드니레 라마 샤자스가 고데 렌지지가 소소류데 라마 샤자스 고르 교소 소소 시도 저 샘데니레 라마 샤자스가 두데 렌지지가 소소 샘데 라마 샤자스가 둘라죠 랑게 룽아이서 라마 샤자스 고소도 뭐 예메 교소 소소디 대화데 대화도 대도니 소메 시켜서 란냐사가 네디야 너그 견타데 라마 샤자스가 다베 시도 교소 삼나 다 라마 샤자스가 다 고소도 뭐 예메 교와데 나라라시메 바지 콤바시 나라라시 뭐 공부체 대 두갈래 라마샤자 승게 심정가 잘하니 뭐 파트네 심정을 라마샤자 또 봐. 샤상와레데 티발라테네 대다다네 기지가 라마샤자서 구조도 뭐 예매 교소 서 대다가 녀석 아니 네디 대다 야 안되고 견타자 라마샤자서 다베시도 교소 섬자 심자 탐자 라마샤자서 아니 고발라 거기에서 다 님만 데린 거도 소다 가와고 왔다 야고시고 중수 선자 선자들 라마산 샤자도 고발라 고바 대치도 소재기와 가지고 두고 소소를 잡아가 유대는 줘봤으면 두자 영화에서 코다 줘봐 공부시 이 대화대 동바 디 대화대 대화 동바냐 동배 대화냐 대도 뉴스만 이시켜서 선자 공부자.
But then through the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And through the combination of my own most subtle mind or consciousness acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. I now see my body, speech, and mind as being inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. I can see then that the place I am in is completely transformed of all fault and becomes a pure realm as well. This produces a sense of bliss which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. Then, seeing myself as a fully enlightened being, also seeing myself as lacking any inherent existence, I send out light rays from my own heart center, equal in number to all of the sentient beings in all of cyclic existence, all the different realms of existence. And upon dissolving into these sentient beings, they completely arise, they spontaneously arise, rather, as fully enlightened Buddhas. The places that they find themselves in are purified of all fault and become pure realms. I really rejoice at this point. Today is the day of being able to fulfill the goal of all sentient beings and leading them to that state of enlightenment. They say leading all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, the merit which has facilitated that, and myself as the agent of that merit, I realize are completely empty of any objective existence and merely imputed by thought. This again produces a sense of bliss, and that combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
뭐래. 다다도 뭐가 이제 뭔가 가다다 되게 레라오죠 말아. 이내 양 다다다 삼로 땅원에서 운에 거라데 데 유도 용에게 아니 줄을 주가서 송거지. 어디서.
And so, of course, I realize I'm operating at the level of imagination and aspiration here, and nothing is as easy as that. But I make sure that in my dedication right now, I want to be determined that I will make it manifest for real, as quickly as possible.
개완디 예오뇨 돈조
Nyoduda
lai ma
Laima
san ye
Sangye
do yo
Gyurne
ro wa
Rowa
che da ma le
Sekyamalupa
de ye
De
sa la ge
Salago
para so
Varsho
chan ju
Sanjo
nen do
Sento
chen bo
Rinpoche
che ma
Ma
ke
ke
pan
panam
ye
ki
ko
gyurche ge pa nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du pe war sho ni da wa rin po che ma ke panam ki gyurche Ge pa nya pa me pa yang gong ne gong du pe war show me ko wen xin kam du pen dang de wa ma lu chen wei ne chen wei ji guan chen chin ge zo yi sha pe si te ba du ten gyu chi这为真的心，你没根配王婆家呀，刚真根配主天上卡巴。
罗
罗
三
三盖
的
被
下
沙
来
拉手
做的，
的
没有没
明媚智
有
慧可见真的是
没
你根
有
配
我
王
莫
不
家
见
门。
了。
该
刚
见
正
见
天配
主
诸
天
天
上
上卡
的
巴
罗
罗
三
三盖
的
被
下
沙
来
勒
做完
手
的，
的。
没有没
明媚智慧可见真的心，你们天配王婆真漂亮。刚真配诸天上卡巴。罗山盖被沙拉手的。You are of Lakshvara, a great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of souls, Losang Drakpa, at your feet I make requests.
That's one. Lord, thank you. Everyone, thank you. Take care.
So, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So.